Imagine waiting for someone every single day for 9 years. Rain, snow, freezing cold, burning heat, nothing stops you. You wait and you wait and you wait. And the person never comes back. Most humans would give up after a few days, but this dog never did. Not once, not even for a single day. This is the true story of Hachiko, the most loyal creature that ever walked this earth. And by the end of this video, I promise you, you will never look at a dog the same way again. To understand this story, we need to go back to Japan in the 1920s. This was a time when Japan was changing rapidly. Cities were growing. Universities were expanding. And Tokyo was becoming one of the most important cities in the world. In the middle of all this change, there was a man named Hidesaburo Ueno. Professor Ueno was a highly respected agricultural scientist at the University of Tokyo. He was a quiet, gentle, and deeply passionate man who loved his work and loved his home. He lived in a neighborhood called Shibuya, which back then was a peaceful, residential area very different from the busy commercial district it is today. Professor Ueno had a comfortable life. He had a loving home, but something was missing. And in 1924, that something arrived. In 1924, Professor Ueno received a gift that would change his life forever. A small Akita puppy was sent to him from the Odate region of Akita, prefecture in northern Japan. The Akita is one of Japan's most ancient and noble dog breeds. They are powerful, dignified, and deeply loyal animals that have been part of Japanese culture for thousands of years. When Professor Ueno first laid eyes on this tiny puppy, something special happened between them. A bond formed instantly. Professor Ueno named the puppy Hashi. The name comes from the Japanese word for the number 8, which is considered a lucky number in Japanese culture. The KO was added later as a term of endearment, making the full name Hachiko, which roughly translates to loyal 8 or dear 8. From the very first day, Hachiko and Professor Ueno were inseparable. The little puppy followed the professor everywhere around the house. He slept near him. He ate near him. He was always watching, always present, always loyal. As Hachiko grew from a tiny puppy into a strong and beautiful Akita, a routine developed between him and Professor Ueno that would become the stuff of legend. Every single morning, Professor Ueno would prepare for his day at the university, and every single morning, Hachiko would walk beside him from their home to Shibuya train station. The walk was not very long, but it was the most important part of both their days. At the station, Professor Ueno would board the train to the university, and Hachiko would watch him go. And then every single evening, without fail, without being told, without anyone guiding him, Hachiko would walk back to Shibuya station at exactly the right time. The precise time when Professor Ueno's train would arrive. He would wait at the station, watching every face that came through the gates until he saw his person. And when Professor Ueno stepped off that train and saw Hachiko waiting for him, the reunion was always joyful. They would walk home together, side by side, just as they had walked to the station that morning. This happened every single day. The station master noticed. The vendors at the station noticed. The regular commuters noticed. This beautiful golden brown Akita waiting patiently at the station every evening became a familiar and beloved sight. People would smile when they saw him. They would bring him treats. They felt that this dog was something special, and they were right. May 21st, 1925. This date would change everything. Professor Ueno went to work that morning just like any other morning. Hachiko walked beside him to the station just like any other morning. The professor boarded his train. Hachiko watched him go. And then Hachiko walked back home to wait for the evening. But that evening something was wrong. The train arrived. Passengers poured out of the gates. Hachiko watched every face. But Professor Ueno was not among them. Hachiko waited. More trains came. More passengers came. But not Professor Ueno. Hachiko stayed at the station long into the night, waiting in the cold, watching, hoping. Professor Ueno never came, because that afternoon, while teaching at the university, Professor Ueno had suffered a sudden and massive cerebral hemorrhage. He died before he could ever return home. He was 53 years old. He never got to say goodbye to Hachiko. And Hachiko never got to understand why his person simply stopped coming home. After Professor Ueno's death, Hachiko was taken in by relatives and then eventually by a former gardener of Professor Ueno named Kobayashi Kikosaburo, who lived not far from Shibuya. The people who cared for Hachiko tried their best to give him a good home, but Hachiko had no interest in settling into a new life. Every single day, Hachiko would make his way back to Shibuya Station. He would arrive in the evening, around the time Professor Ueno's train used to come in, and he would wait. He waited in the sunshine. He waited in the pouring rain. He waited through the freezing winters when snow covered the ground and the cold wind cut through everything. He waited through the sweltering summers. He waited on good days and bad days. He waited when he was healthy and he waited when he was sick and tired. Every single day, for 9 years, 1 month, and 15 days, Hachiko went to Shibuya Station and waited for a man who would never return. For the first few years, most people did not fully understand what Hachiko was doing. Some of the station workers were actually unkind to him, shooing him away and treating him as a nuisance. But as time went on and people began to realize that this dog had been coming to this station every single day for years, waiting for his deceased owner, the mood shifted completely. A student named Hirokichi Sato, who had studied dog breeds in Japan, encountered Hachiko at the station in 1932. He was deeply moved by what he saw. He researched Hachiko's background and discovered the full story of his loyalty. Sato wrote several articles about Hachiko that were published in one of Japan's largest newspapers. Almost overnight, Hachiko became famous across the entire country. People came from all over Japan just to see this faithful dog waiting at Shibuya Station. The vendors at the station began saving special treats for him. The station master, who had once seen him as a nuisance, now welcomed him warmly. Hachiko became a national symbol, a symbol of loyalty, devotion, and love that does not end even in the face of death. In 1934, while Hachiko was still alive, a bronze statue of him was erected right outside Shibuya Station. It was an almost unprecedented honor. A statue built not for a king or a warrior or a politician, but for a dog. A dog who simply loved his person and refused to stop waiting. By early 1935, Hachiko was old and unwell. Years of waiting outside in all weather conditions had taken a toll on his body. He suffered from cancer and a serious worm infection. He was thin and weak, but still, every day he made his way to Shibuya Station. Still, he waited. On March 8, 1935, Hachiko was found on a street not far from Shibuya Station. He had passed away. He was approximately 13 years old. When the news spread, Japan mourned as if it had lost a national hero, because in every sense that mattered, it had. Hachiko had waited for his beloved professor for 9 years, 1 month and 15 days. He had never stopped. He had never given up. He had loved with a completeness and a devotion that most humans spend their entire lives searching for and never find. In a final beautiful twist, when Hachiko's body was examined, it was discovered that he had been carrying something in his stomach, a piece of Professor Ueno's old glove. He had kept it with him all those years, a small piece of the person he loved most in the world. Hachiko's story did not end with his death. If anything, it grew stronger. The original bronze statue at Shibuya Station had been melted down during World War II as Japan needed metal for the war effort. But in 1948, a new statue was created by the son of the original sculptor and placed back at Shibuya Station. That statue stands there to this day. Shibuya Station, which is now one of the busiest train stations in the entire world with millions of passengers passing through every day, has a special meeting spot called the Hachiko exit and the Hachiko Plaza. People from all over the world travel to Tokyo just to see that statue and take a photograph with it. The statue has become one of the most popular meeting spots in all of Japan. In 1987, a Japanese film about Hachiko's story was released and became enormously popular. Then in 2009, an American remake called Hachi, a Dog's Tale was released starring Richard Gere as the professor. The film moved audiences around the world to tears and introduced Hachiko's story to a whole new generation of people globally. At the University of Tokyo, where Professor Ueno worked, there is a statue of Hachiko reuniting with his beloved professor, the two of them together at last. It was unveiled in 2015, 80 years after Hachiko's death. Visitors to the statue often leave flowers, treats, and small tokens for both of them. Why does the story of Hachiko move us so deeply even today, nearly 100 years later? Perhaps it is because in a world that often feels temporary and uncertain, where relationships break and promises are forgotten, Hachiko represents something we all deeply long for. Unconditional love. Love that does not calculate. Love that does not give up when things get hard. Love that continues even when there is no logical reason to continue. Hachiko did not wait because someone told him to. He did not wait because he expected a reward. He waited because he loved. Purely, completely, without condition. Dogs have been called man's best friend for thousands of years. But Hachiko showed the world what that phrase truly means. He showed us that the bond between a human and a dog can be one of the most profound and beautiful connections in all of nature. And he showed us that love, real love, does not end just because someone is no longer there. Hachiko passed away on March 8, 1935, but he has never really been forgotten. Every day, millions of people pass by his statue at Shibuya Station. Some stop and look at it for a moment. Some take photographs. Some reach out and touch it gently. And some people, when they learn the full story of this faithful dog who waited 9 years for his person, feel something shift inside them. A quiet reminder of what really matters. Of what love really looks like when it is true. If this story moved you the way it moved us, please give this video a like and share it with someone who loves dogs. And subscribe to our channel, because we have many more incredible, true dog stories coming for you. Stories of courage, loyalty, sacrifice, and love that will make you see the world a little differently. We will see you in the next one.